All right, so I've talked a little bit about the lesson plan and I've introduced you to some of Ohio's standards. Basically, people in Ohio's education system, often not teachers, get together and write a list of standards that they think students should be able to master by the time they're finished with that grade. And so when you guys teach lessons, you're going to be choosing from those standards, but most importantly, you're going to be choosing a learning objective. And so what we're going to work on is how to write these learning objectives to challenge our students, because at the end of a lesson, you don't want a student to only be able to memorize facts. Now, at the end of some lessons, that's what you want. But at the end of, I guess I shouldn't have said lesson, at the end of a unit, you want a student to do more than just regurgitate facts that you gave. So you might remember, was it 2 weeks ago in one of the videos I showed you, the speaker referenced a learning wheel with learning verbs. And so I'm going to give you all this paper copy, and then there's also this digital copy that you're going to see. And that's going to help you to, first I'm going to have you identify some of these learning statements or learning objectives and decide which level of Bloom's they are. And then you're going to actually work on writing your own learning objective. And a learning objective is a statement that you write that tells you what a student is expected to learn by the end of a school year, course, unit, project, or class period, or in this case, lesson. All right, let's do a few examples. Again, you can use this printout or this digital version. I'm going to give you some lesson learning objectives, and I want you to identify where at in Bloom's taxonomy you would find this objective. So remember, there's 6 different levels. The video you watched earlier they showed it as stairs. They also show it as a pyramid. The resource I gave to you is a circle or chart. But the 6 levels, they start with remember. That's the most basic. That's recalling information. And then it moves up to understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and then finally create. So if Bloom's is something you already feel sort of comfortable with based on what you've done in Miss D's class or any of your own research or just watching the videos I've shown you, then you might not utilize this wheel. But if you're struggling with it, then you're going to kind of use what I give you and then look at the wheel. So if I say that a student must name the 3 branches of government, you're going to look on this wheel and see where you see the verb name. And if we look, name is under remember. So the learning objective, name 3 branches of government, would fall under remember in Bloom's taxonomy. And by the way, the 3 branches of government are legislative, executive, and judicial. All right, so I'm going to give you some examples of learning objectives. So these you might find at the bottom of an assignment or on a teacher's lesson plans, and I want you to determine which level of Bloom's they are expecting the student to demonstrate. The first one says restate Ohm's law in your own words. Don't worry, I'm not asking you to actually restate Ohm's law because I don't even know Ohm's law. But what would asking a student to restate Ohm's law, which level of Bloom's are we looking at? Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, or create. If you said understand, you're correct. With understand, you're asking them to demonstrate to you that they can interpret the materials. So rather than just spit back out to you what Ohm's law is from the book or from the dictionary, they are putting it into their own words. They're demonstrating that they comprehend the material. So this would fall under understand. All right, next one. By the end of this lesson, the student will be able to compare and contrast potential and kinetic energy. So what level asks a student to compare and contrast? If you said analyze, you're right. Students are now demonstrating critical thinking. So they break material into its parts and determine how the parts relate to one another. So anytime you're asking someone to compare and contrast, you're asking them to analyze. Next, we have one that I might have for you guys, or Miss D might have under her learning objectives. The student should be able to list in order the levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Now, while this might be challenging for some of you, this is falling under the lowest level, and remember, all we're asking you to do is simply retrieve, recall, or recognize relevant knowledge. This might be difficult, right? Some of us struggle with remembering or memorizing, but it's not any sort of higher level thinking. So this is why we say this is that lower level when you're just asking to memorize. Design a detailed reconstruction plan outlining your goals to reconcile the North and the South after the Civil War. So which level would ask a student to design? If you said create, you're correct. Students are putting elements together to form a coherent or functional whole. So they're putting together what they've learned about the Civil War, what they've learned about the North, what they've learned about the South, and they're going to try to fix it. So this is that highest level because this isn't something that can be taught. I can't, as a teacher, teach you to create, right? You have to take the knowledge that you have to then create something. All right, I know this was a super short Edpuzzle, but I wanted to give you some sample questions before you completed the Google form. So use the chart that I gave you or use the digital resource that I gave you to help you determine for each of the learning objectives which level of Bloom's it came from. And that's all you have for the week. So you have this very short Edpuzzle, the Edpuzzle from Monday, and then the Google form.
That's all, folks.